Diptyque's Eau Duelle is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. This is actually my first ever niche purchase. And I have the Eau de Toilette, and I wanted to compare this to the Eau de Parfum. So I have been testing out the Eau de Parfum for quite some time. I got a few free samples of it the last time I was at the Diptyque store. So I kind of have a good idea of how they smell like and how they kind of perform in colder weather and also in hot weather like today. Even though it might not be the most extraordinary fragrance out there, I do find a lot of beauty in both the Eau de Parfum and the Eau de Toilette. So if you are someone who's into vanilla fragrances, this might be helpful for you if you're trying to kind of decide which version of Diptyque's Eau Duelle works for you. If you were to look at Diptyque's official website and compared the page for the Eau de Toilette and then the Eau de Parfum, you might notice that the descriptions are exactly the same. And they don't list all their notes, but they do list 3 key ingredients that are probably the strongest that you smell. And the 3 that they list are exactly the same for both the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum. If you go onto websites like Fragrantica or Lucky Scent, they do list a lot more notes, and you might see that there are some differences between the 2 versions. I think maybe the order of some notes get rearranged, or there are a few notes that are different. But on the website for Diptyque, they do provide something that they call an olfactory accident. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of like an accord that you can smell from the combination of notes that they have. So it might not be a note or an accord that they intended to produce, but maybe the combination of things within a perfume might give you that olfactory accident. So that is actually different on the official website for both the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum. So on the Eau de Parfum's page, they say that the olfactory accident is, I think, incense. And then the Eau de Toilette is calamus. And if you're not sure what calamus is, I want to say it's some type of plant or herb. And whenever it's listed in a list of notes for a fragrance, it smells a little bit spicy and almost like cinnamon to me. And I guess I kind of get that from the Eau de Toilette, but I'll kind of explain what I think is different between the 2. Both fragrances are actually very, very similar. If I were to compare them to people, they are kind of like fraternal twins. So they have a lot of similarities between the 2, but then there are a few differences that can be pretty noticeable if you are smelling them up close. So both clearly have a dominant note of vanilla. And I want to say that there might be different types of vanilla, maybe 2 types of vanilla, and there is a lot of spiciness in both of them. The level of spiciness is a little bit different between the 2, and I think maybe the different spices are used between the 2 fragrances, but generally speaking, both are boozy vanillas with spiciness. So I'll first kind of talk about the Eau de Toilette, and this version, to me, it opens up with a very bright citrusy note. I want to say that it's a bergamot scent. It almost sparkles, and in the summertime, I actually get a lot more of that citrusy note. And the way that it sparkles adds this brightness to the Eau de Toilette that I don't necessarily get from the Eau de Parfum. And as it develops, I get a lot of the vanilla. The vanilla is quite sweet, and I also get different spices like cardamom and then a little bit of pink pepper. It is peppery. I'm actually wearing it on my arm. It is quite peppery, but not as much as the Eau de Parfum. And I get more of that cardamom type of smell. So the spices are going to be a little bit different between the 2. And then as it dries down a little bit further, and then I get down to the base notes, there is a little bit, just a slight hint of smokiness. It could smell like incense, but I think I get more of the incense from the Eau de Parfum. But I also get this woodiness from the Eau de Toilette. And the woods that I get from this is very similar to juniper trees that I smell in my neighborhood. We have a lot here, and that smell is very familiar to me. I get a lot of that woodiness in the base of this fragrance. So that is basically what the Eau de Toilette smells like to me. Overall, very bright, and then it mellows out to the sweet vanilla scent, and then a little bit of woodiness and smokiness. The Eau de Parfum opens up a little bit differently. It's not as bright. It has a little bit of citrus, but definitely not as much as the Eau de Toilette. It doesn't sparkle as much, but I get more pepperiness from the Eau de Parfum. I believe red or pink peppercorn is listed as a note in both. And I don't know if black pepper is listed, but there is something in the Eau de Parfum that reminds me of black pepper. It can be a little bit sneezy, or it makes you want to sneeze when you maybe overspray it and then you sniff it right away. I don't get that same feeling when I smell the Eau de Toilette. So if you like peppery fragrances, you might enjoy the Eau de Parfum better. And the vanilla, it's very prominent. I would say it's not as sweet as the Eau de Toilette. It is heavier though. Like the vanilla almost feels thicker when I smell it in the Eau de Parfum. So there is that key difference, I think, between the two. And then as it dries down, I do get a little bit of woodiness, but it's not so much from juniper trees. I actually smell the woodiness that I smell from vetiver. So vetiver is not a tree, it's a plant, but I do get a dry woodiness when I smell that note in a lot of fragrances. And that's what I definitely get from the Eau de Parfum. So, you know, it's gonna depend on your preference for what type of vanilla you like. If you want something less sweet, you might like the Eau de Parfum better. If you want something sweeter, then you might want the Eau de Toilette. And then the woodiness is also slightly different. And then also the citrus notes. There isn't as much citrus in the Eau de Parfum. So in terms of versatility, I would say the Eau de Toilette can be worn a lot easier across all seasons. I think that this actually smells awesome during the summer. It can be worn during the winter too. I do notice a difference with how it smells like when it's colder versus when it's warmer. So in the heat, I get more of the citrus notes, and during the winter time, it does get a little bit smokier, but not as smoky as the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum, I am wearing it today and it's super hot. It can feel a little bit overwhelming because of how thick that vanilla is and because it is quite smoky. During the winter time though, I feel like it would probably suit that weather a little bit better than the Eau de Toilette. And I want to get into the performance as well, because I think that is another key difference. The Eau de Parfum lasts on my skin quite strongly for at least 8 hours, and it projects quite a lot. I remember the first time I tested it out, I came out of the Diptyque store, and I happened to go into a different store afterwards, and a stranger actually asked me what I was wearing. So they were able to smell it from my skin at least 2 feet away. The Eau de Toilette is a lot closer to the skin. It doesn't project as much. I do get quite a few compliments when I wear this though, when people give me hugs. So they have to be very close to you in order to smell it. So it's not gonna project as much, and then I would say the sillage isn't as strong as the Eau de Parfum. For the longevity of the Eau de Toilette, I initially thought that this only lasted 6 hours. And I realized that I think I become nose blind to this after 6 hours, because I would wear it and spray it on in the morning, and then my husband would come home maybe 8 hours after I sprayed it, and even though I don't smell it anymore, he'll comment on it and say, oh, you're wearing vanilla today. So he can clearly still smell it. So it might not be the longevity that's the problem. It could be just me not being able to smell it after some time. But I don't get that issue from the Eau de Parfum. So which one's better? Some people might say the Eau de Parfum if you are purely looking at performance, but to me, I look more into how a fragrance smells like. Performance is great, but it's not something that I tend to put high on my priorities if I'm looking into a fragrance. I would say that the Eau de Toilette suits my taste a little bit better. I like the sweetness of the vanilla. It's still not like a, sweet cupcake type of vanilla. There is a boozy quality to it. But if you want something a little bit more subdued with the sweetness, the Eau de Parfum might be better for you. The pepperiness is also very different in both. If you like super peppery fragrances, you might enjoy the Eau de Parfum better. But if you want more nuances in your spices, you might like the Eau de Toilette. I'm gonna guess that some of you might wonder which one is better for men and which one's better for women. I don't gender my fragrances. I honestly think both can suit any gender. It's gonna be really up to your mood, your personality, your taste. But if you need some guidance around that, I know that the sales associate did tell me that she has noticed that male customers tend to like the Eau de Parfum better. But again, I don't think you should limit yourself to just one based on, what gender likes which one more. So that's my comparison between the two. Let me know if you've tried both or one of the fragrances. I'd love to hear your thoughts about them. And if I missed anything or if you have any questions about the two fragrances, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. So yeah, I will see you again next time. I hope you enjoyed this and take care and stay healthy. Bye.